What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Limited Resources. This episode number 772. My name is Marshall. I'm one of your Limited Resources, and joining me on the line all the way from Denver, Colorado, it's Luis Scott-Vargas. Luis, you just got back from lunch. I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah, it was great. I went to go have with my brother and my mom, and we had a fantastic time. Good
company, good food. What could be better? I'll tell you what could be better. Draft walkthrough for Duskmourn. We're going to do not one, but two drafts today. We're doing them a little earlier than we normally would, but we wanted to try it out, see how it goes, especially considering that by the time we would normally do this show, Luis may very well be on his leave. So we wanted to make sure that we got to do these for you. And doing a little early sounds kind of cool. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a premiere and then a traditional on Arena draft walkthrough so you can see how we're currently approaching the format. Before we do, I want to talk about two things. First thing, Patreon. Patreon.com/limited resources is how you can support the show directly. Thanks to each and every one of you who do so. You can also check out ultimateguard.com for the best products in the business. They make a wide array of products that protect your cards, your decks, your entire collection, moving them around, storing them, actually playing Magic with them, all that kind of stuff. You can do it with style, and you can do it with some of the best products on the market. UltimateGuard.com to see their product lineup. You can buy their products at your favorite local game store or your favorite online retailer. Thank you, Ultimate Guard. We appreciate it. We've got our Patreon question of the week. Just one of the many perks for being a patron of the show is you get access to the Patreon question of the week, and you also get access to the live recording, which we're doing right now. The live recording, we put a link up as we prep for the show, so you get to come in and chat with us and watch the nonsense before the show and after the show as well. And so we're doing that as well. Anyway, Patreon question of the week comes from Frank, who says, hello, this may be more of a sign-off than a Patreon question of the week, but here it goes. You guys have the Martialist card and Frank lists Man of War, the Luisiest card, Divination, true. Cards that are archetypes that show up consistently in sets. Given the broad base of friends that you have who play Magic, what are some of their archetypal cards? Some classics, Mike Turian and Giant Growth, Dave Price and Bolt, Mike Long and Sheedy Face. Man,
actually, I would argue that Prosperous Bloom is a better card for Mike Long. That was the card he was found with on his lap at PT
Was
Paris.
it Cadaverous Bloom or Prosperity?
Cadaverous Bloom.
Cadaverous Bloom.
Prosperity, Cadaverous Bloom was, of course, the deck he was playing.
Oh, that deck was sweet. Yes, I agree with you. That is a card I'd pick for him, but it is funny to say Cheaty Face. So with that in mind, we thought that we would go through some of friends of the show and list their favorite card. And we reached out to each person and got the exact card to pick here. So, Luis, why don't you start off? We
definitely reached out to them and did not make it up right
No,
now.
Definitely didn't do it. So why don't you kick it off with BK?
So for BK, I've got Wharf Infiltrator, which is a bit of a deep cut unless you know BK. At one of his first PTs in Sydney, this is a Pro Tour Eldritch Moon, he was on the same testing team as me, and a bunch of people from our testing team played this blue-black Wharf Infiltrator Madness deck that was just really bad. I just played Bant Company and copied the PT instead. So Wharf Infiltrator is a frequently brought up card that we like to kid around with BK with.
And that's why BK chose it for his favorite card. Okay. What about Paul Cheon?
For Paul Cheon, we debated, a Cryptic Command, but we ended up going with Celestial Colonnade because Blue-White Cheons is a classic.
He ended up we reached out. Remember, he ended up.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
He ended up.
Yeah.
Blue-White Cheons is just a classic archetype. Even now, people talk about it. He just would always draft Blue-White Control and Cube, and that Celestial Colonnade is kind of like the most emblematic card of that.
It is. Also, it is funny.
It's gotten a little power crept. It's a slow coming to play tapped land. Mm-hmm. It taps for both colors.
So you say it's a little long in the tooth, slightly past its prime, but still playable.
Yeah. Like still capable of winning some money in the Arena Open, but maybe not capable of playing on the PT.
Not much else beyond that. And by the way, you're the one that made Blue White Cheons the thing. Like he said that on his old streams a little bit, but like you've really carried that torch.
I mean, this is a classic kind of like dynamic with me and Paul, or me and you, or me and BK, or me and any of my friends, which is whether or not I make something up, I certainly can amplify it. Like I'm very good at that.
You are. It is one of your many gifts. What about TBS?
TBS is Old Man of the Sea, and I don't think it needs a whole lot of explanation, to be honest.
He even lives by the sea now. Like, he lives on an island. So there you go. And then Ryan Spain. This one he actually would pick, by the way, or did pick, I should say. Mijay Jin. This is a card that goes,
I believe.
Is it Mijay? Whatever. I don't know how to say it, but I do know what it is.
Abundantly clear.
Yeah. So you think it's Mijay Jin? Mahai Jin? Oh my God. I'm sorry, Mahai Jin.
I don't know much better than anyone else.
Yeah. Apparently either do I. Anyway, this Jin was printed back in Arabian Nights, and it's triple red for a 6/3, and it says whenever it attacks, you flip a coin. If you lose the flip, you remove the Jin from combat and untap it. And this was kind of the card that hooked Ryan into Magic. I taught him how to play. I'm younger than him, and at the time, that age gap felt a lot different. I think I was maybe 15 and he was in his early 20s, something like that. And anyway, and he was like, okay, this game's kind of cool or whatever. But then I busted out this Jin on him, and he was like, oh, like he kind of got that you could start to combine all these different game design elements into one thing. And he never looked back. And, for those of you that don't know Ryan, he's been on the show a bunch of times. He's the one we've had on that works for Magic Online now. But he also worked at Wizards of the Coast for a long time.
He also helped launch the show.
And he also was the original co-host of Limited Resources. Anyway, however you pronounce it, Jin is his card.
Which is also funny, by the way, because I would not point to Mahai Jin as a particularly stellar example of game design.
Right. It's not great game design. It's not a great card. It's not iconic, right? It's not one of those cards that you look back, oh, yeah, that card. It's one of those ones, but it just happened to be the one that I showed him that hooked him, that unlocked the door for him to go, oh, and then of course, there's so many, basically like understanding that you could do different mechanics, I think was kind of the main thing for him. What did Sirkovitz say? What did he pick?
Sirkovitz, of course, he's leaned into Number Cruncher as his card of note.
That's the perfect card for him. And then you and I, okay, look, everybody else got to pick their own cards, but for producer Jeff, we did pick a card for him, and it is Bag of Devouring, which is apparently a new card I didn't even know existed. But this is because we always tease Jeff, because there's a certain type of meal that you can get in Ireland where he lives, and it's called a spice bag. And basically every time we start the show, I'll ask Jeff, like if he had a spice bag for dinner, because the time zone difference, it's usually evening for him. And I don't know why that has been so... That's really stuck with us, Luis. The spice bag is like, it's
just such a funny concept, such a funny thing to think about. We don't have spice bags here, and at least not with that name. And it's just been a good time.
Yeah, but you can
and he's
actually
on like half the shows.
Yeah, that's true. So he's the spice bag of Devouring, and I've been promised by Jeff that we have like a dual promise. So if he's here in the States, like in an area where I'm at, then I'm going to take him to Costco, and I'm going to get him a Costco-sized bag of that Chicago mix popcorn, the one that's like half cheddar, half caramel. And it comes in a bag, it's like my torso size. Like it's just this absurd thing to bring back to a more rational country like Ireland, who would look at that and go, are you kidding me? Like, who needs 5 pounds of this stuff or whatever? Problem is, once you start eating it, you realize why the bag is so big. It's just because you can just keep going. And then if I'm
is the best for that.
Totally.
That's the blue and like kind of blue and light blue striped tin that you could see from Chicago and all that.
Yeah. And then if I'm ever, and I'm sure that this goes out to you too, Luis, in Ireland, we're getting a spice bag. There's no doubt about it.
Definitely.
Before we get into the drafts, Luis, there was an arena open on the weekend. I know I wanted to tell my sob story, and I want to hear yours too, I guess.
Well, why don't you start then? You're the one who has the...
Yeah, I mean, mine's not that great, but I took, I qualified on my third try on day one, that's probably about my average, like 2
That's
to
pretty good
4.
these days, honestly.
It's not too bad.
I did too, and I felt really good about it. I have definitely gone deeper.
I have too. That's the thing is there's definitely times when it's 6 or 7 and it's like, okay, is this going to happen? Like, what is going on here? But anyway, yeah, 3 or 4 is probably what I would say I normally hit. Anyway, and I did, sealed felt how it has felt lately, especially with the play boosters. It's felt very variant, like really all over the map. Sealed's always had that element to it. But when you turn the knob on not just how many of your rares are good and there's 6 of them to how many rares did you get and how many are good, it really feels like, some pools just line up really well and some of them don't. Also, I know that this isn't really avoidable in many cases, but like lands in the rare slot in this set, ley lines in the rare slot that are all blanks, those are tough for sealed. Like they're just throwaways, and there's whole cycles. There's always been throwaway rares, but when there's, one for each color, it's eating up a pretty big chunk of that slot.
Well,
and
it's also such a beating when you get like three completely blank rares and like maybe a mediocre one and like maybe 2 decent ones. Cause there's people out there who have 4 good on color rares.
Totally. And, I spared you, Luis, but I did have a 3 ley line one. I was going to send it. I was like, I'm just not even going to bother. But yeah, but those are tough when it's like, cool, 2 black ley lines and a blue ley line. And then, you're kind of picking through the rest to see what you got. One interesting thing that did come up, Luis, I'm curious about sealed for me, was that I felt like all 3 pools I opened, I had the opportunity to play quite a few cards. The first place I looked was green, colors. The first place I looked each time was green, and the combination of the green fixing plus dual lands plus terramorphic expanse and then a couple of other random fixers in there here and there meant that I did feel like I could kind of spread my wings and fly. That said, I didn't opt to do it. I think I splashed like 1 card in one of those 3 decks that I built. And the one that I actually got there with was just a straight 2-color deck. Even though I really felt like I could basically, maybe not quite 5 color, but like 3 colors easily if green was my base. And even if I wanted to get a little greedy, I felt like I could splash a 4th color if needed. But I didn't end up doing that. I felt like the synergies lined up a bit better. And the synergy still mattered in sealed, by the way. Like it didn't feel like it was just pure raw cards coming down. So I am curious, before I continue, did you have that experience too about splashing in colors and stuff? Yeah.
So I don't think this is like a particularly fantastic sealed format. Mm-hmm. Like it's fine. It's funny because like a lot of people have talked about how play boosters have made draft worse. And I don't really think that's like a big thing. Like I haven't noticed like a dramatic difference. Mm-hmm. Sealed, I have noticed. Mm-hmm. Sealed, I feel like it's a little bit more. So yeah, there's some, like my first pool, I had blue and black overlords and 2 other good rares, and I went 0-3.
Oh wow.
No, sorry, I went 0-2 and I dropped because I don't usually play it out at 0-2 or 1-2 mm-hmm. if I don't really like the deck, just because time wise it's just not very efficient. But what the deck I ended up qualifying with was Obzon, and with a lot of synergies in it. The themes in this set are so well supported. Part of the reason I like this set so much, and I felt like in Sealed you could definitely have like a blue-white enchantment theme, or like the black green white deck was kind of like a reanimator sacrifice sort of deck. And I saw BK qualify, and he had like a delirium like red green black deck that Grixis would end up qualifying with. But like there's just a lot of different ways to build it and a lot of different colors, but you also have so many powerful cards that you don't need to play like 5 colors that often, or even 4. Like I don't think that's generally where you want to be.
Yeah. So that's where I ended up too. I almost got there with a red white build, and then I did with a red green build. That was both of them were pretty aggressive, pretty straightforward, a little more assertive than, what I would be used to playing in Sealed, but they had a good. Basically, those type of decks can come together if you get lucky and open a good curve, right? Because you can have good power level, but bad curve, and those decks don't usually tend to work under that circumstance.
One of my friends made day 2 go 7-1 with like a blue, just straight blue-white deck with like multiple Gremlin Tamers and just a bunch of rooms, and like it just worked just like a draft deck. Yeah,
that sounds exactly like the good draft decks. Yeah. So anyway, I made it in, and then I woke up in the morning and I drafted what I would call a very good to very good red-white deck. And I had the interesting experience of losing my first round. I think at least the first game, partially due to sloppy play. That first game at like 7 a.m. or whatever, it hits different. Like I usually have to make some dumb mistake before I go, okay, dude, come on, like sit up, slap, come on, let's go, to get focused. And I ended up losing a really close game. I don't know if my mistakes were the difference or not. I couldn't quite figure it out, but definitely was like, okay, get it together. And then I got absolutely ran over in game 2. So I lost the first round, again, feeling that my deck was pretty good. And then I managed to rattle off 3 wins in a row with it, good close games and stuff. It wasn't like I was just killing people easily, but I did manage to make it to the second draft. And I showed up for that, and I drafted your deck, Luis, the teamer deck.
I love the teamer deck.
Yeah, I took a couple of blue cards early and then a red card, and it was the only card that, mattered in the pack. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be blue-red here. And I got either 4th or 5th pick Spineseeker Centipede, your boy. And I'm like, well,
I mean,
data point. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Spineseeker Centipede was my first pick of day 2.
Yeah, and I took the, what's it called? The Flood Pits guy, the
Drowner?
The Drowner. First pick. Yeah. And then, and there wasn't a Centipede. But anyway, I got a 4th or 5th pick Centipede, and I'm like, well, it's still early. I'm going to take it here. It's a good data point that green could be open, but somebody could have just taken a green rare or whatever. But then I got another one 2 picks later. So it was either pick 6 or 7. I actually don't remember there, but I was like, okay. And so I ended up with 3 Centipedes and a good, powerful deck, including the Roller Coaster and some other good rare and the mana to cast it. So I was quite happy with my deck. And in the first, and I have no wiggle room because I went 3-1 in the first draft, and I lost the first game of my first match. Really good close game. It was one of those ones that I kind of struggled a little bit to not be frustrated about. My opponent was playing blue-white, and they were playing very aggressively, and I was doing some like manifesting and like a Spineseeker, and I was just trading them off for kind of whatever my opponent would put out, trying to run them out of gas, because I had a good late game with a few rooms and the rare that I don't remember which one I had, but it was good, and then the roller coaster thing. And
Roller Crusher Ride.
And I got them down to no cards in hand. So I'm like, okay, like we're doing pretty good. I'm playing some stuff out. But my life total's at like 10 or something in that range. And they played the 2-1 double strike with the counters on it. And I'm like, okay, I don't have like a perfect block for that.
Plaything, yeah.
What is it called?
Patched Plaything?
Yeah, Patched Plaything. You think I might need to remember these card names before World Championship. Anyway, and I'm like, but that's not like the end of the world or whatever. And then next turn, they rip the card off the top of the deck, and it's Nico. And I'm like, oh man, that's got to be one of the best draws like you could possibly come up with, right? Because it gives you like 2 more cards. And then I didn't quite put this together in the moment, but Nico plus Patched Plaything is really good because it comes back without the counters, and the copies are both without the counters. So you get 2 4/3 double strikers ready to go. And then when the other one comes back, you get a 4/3 double striker left over. And so I'm like, okay, on my turn, I play my 7th land, and I play a 5-drop, the Beastie, and I have the Flood Pits Drowner. So I'm going to take out Nico here. So I pass the turn back to them. I assume that they're just going to activate Nico either way, but I give them a chance to like cast a spell or do something else in the first main and then keep my options open. At any rate, I end up casting the Drowner, and the card that they had drawn for the turn was the stupid Mana Leak. And I'm like, oof. And so that was game one. And I'm like, oh man, it felt like it slipped away. You know, I was like, I had it and then I kind of didn't have it. And then I thought I might have it again and then it was gone. And so, okay. And then we go to game two and I have a 1-lander. I mulligan. I keep a 1-lander with a Land Cycler and a couple of 2-drops or whatever. And then I just, it was 5 turns later and I still had 1 land in play and he just curved out and killed me. So that was a bummer. Pretty typical loss, I would say. I think if I was at the Pro Tour and not doing a podcast and I came up to you and you said what happened, I would say I lost. Because this is the anatomy of what losses look like, right? There's a element of close game. Maybe I could have done something different. There's an element of, those cards came off in just the right order, and I wasn't really going to be playing around things like that type of thing. And then there's an element of, okay, I got a little unlucky here and that's it. But it is the thing that stood out to me is the interesting part was I lost my first round in both drafts, and I felt like my deck was good in both drafts. And in the first draft, I was able to go 3-1 because it wasn't single limb, but I'm not able to in the second draft put that round behind me and kind of get back on the horse. So another miss. My drought continues, but hopefully I'll be able to put one together for the next one. How was yours?
Yeah, so my first draft had a pretty nice Sultai deck with the Black Overlord, Zimone, couple Spine Seekers, Bookworm, Brood Spinner. I mean, this is exactly the deck I actually talked about on the show, right? Where it's just blue, green, splash black. I mean, I had 4 black cards. I pulled up the deck here just to make sure I remember. I have 4 black cards in the whole deck. 2 of them were double black, kind of. It was the Unholy Annex and the Baelmerk, the Overlord. So I like that. That was pretty neat. And then I ended up going 3-1. I mean, it was a solid deck. I was reasonably happy to go 3-1. And then my second deck was really nice. First pick, I took Spine Seeker Centipede over Beastie Beatdown in a pack that really didn't have anything else I would have considered taking. And then I ended up in red-green, and I'm like, God, I wish I took that Beastie Beatdown. And then it wheeled. It was crazy. I was like,
it wheeled?
Yeah, so I was feeling really good about it. I was like, wow, this is actually going kind of nicely. And ended up with a really nice Jund Delirium deck with Swarm Weaver and the Beatdown and a bunch of other pretty strong cards, and ended up going 2-1. My loss was pretty rough. I was playing against a blue-green deck, and game 3, I really had them on the ropes. They cast Valgavas Onslaught into 2 good spells on the next turn. And I honestly, I think I could have gotten myself another turn or 2 there. I think I did mess up, but I also was pretty demoralized, which obviously that's not a good thing to have happen, but ended up getting $500 for my troubles. I actually put both those drafts on YouTube. So if you want to check those out, those are up there. Yeah, I love the Arena Open. I hope there's another one for the set. I don't know if there is. But
God, I hope so too.
I would be really stoked if that were the case.
I want another shot at this one. And by the way, you reminded me of my rare that I opened. It was Zimone also. So that I had that card to start off in the second draft.
That's a nice one too.
Yeah, so it was a good solid one. Okay, speaking of opening bomb rares, would you like to do so?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Do you want to start with Premier Draft or with traditional?
Premier, sure.
All right. So they put Alchemy up again, by the way, Luis, and I almost clicked on it on accident.
Yeah, don't do that.
I think once a set, they get me.
Yeah, I think they could use some help on the Alchemy front.
Yeah,
it is. If I were a product manager and evaluating Alchemy, I would say it's got about an F- so far.
Yeah, I think it's a product that clearly has potential. I get why they're interested in it, but it just hasn't synced up with what at least players like you and I want. Okay, we're jumping into the draft here. We're just we're doing the absolute arena classic of 7 people ready, 1 person waiting. ... for a filled seat.
That's how it would be.
What do you want to open?
I mean, Valgavas Onslaught, I assume, is still the best card. It seems like it'd be pretty hard for that to be.
I think that's the card I'd like to open the most in this set. Yeah.
The Swarm Weaver is one of my favorite opens too.
Ooh, how about dissection tools? That's what we opened up here.
Also a good one. Let's do it.
And colorless as well. Our other uncommons are Savior of the Small, Cursed Windbreaker, Vile Mutilator, Sawblade, Skin Ripper. And then of the commons, there's still just weird that this happens, Luis, but there's 2 Glimmer Bursts. There's a Manifest Dread, a Clockwork Percussionist, a Glimmer Light. My favorite, the Grand Entryway, Elegant Rotunda, but that's just because I draft blue-white like half the time at this point. And then there's some black cards.
The best common, or I think by win rate, at least last time I checked, was the Clockwork Percussionist, and that lines up with my experiences. I love the monkey. Like, honestly, if the dissection tool wasn't here, I would definitely just pick one Clockwork Percussionist over Mutilator, Sawblade, Skin Ripper, Grand Entryway, all of those cards.
You would take it over Manifest Dread and Glimmer Light too, huh?
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't.
I just think the Percussionist is just absolutely nuts. Like, it goes in. It's a really good part of a really good deck, which is Red-Black Sacrifice, and it's fantastic in Red-White, and it's also fantastic in Red-Green because it's Delirium. It just does all of the things, and it does it extremely well. So this second pack has a Peer Past the Veil at rare, which we're not going to be taking. It has Flood Pit's Drowner, always a good one. There's Norin Swift Survivalist, Drag to the Roots, and then really no good commons except Tunnel Surveyor. So I think this looks like a pretty easy Flood Pit's Drowner to me.
Definitely.
I think that Flood Pit's Drowner yeah, it's a fantastic card. I think Flood Pit's Drowner and Drag to the Roots are comparable in terms of how good they are, but one's 2 colors, one's 1 color. It's really just not that difficult to use that as a pretty solid tiebreaker.
Yeah, and taking dissection tools, how much does that dictate your colors? It's a colorless card, so technically 0, but like, do you veer at all around dissection tools?
Yeah. I think that if you have a dissection tools, you would rather go red-black. Like, red-black's going to be the best because it just, not only is it just a great card when you have a lot of fodder, like putting it on Fear of Lost Teeth or Clockwork Percussionist is good. It's also a sack outlet, so it makes your, like, your Vengeful Possessions and all that stuff extremely strong. I think that it's good in any color combination, of course, but yeah, red-black is where I would like to be.
Next pack up, no rare, but there's 3 uncommons, Vile Mutilator, Get Out, and Unwanted Remake. Commons, there's a Fear of Immobility and an Acrobatic Cheerleader. There's also a Vanish from Sight, Fear of Lost Teeth, Innocuous Rat, and there's a Terramorphic and a couple of Junkers.
Yeah, I don't really love any of this. I think I'd just take Get Out. I think Get Out is a pretty strong card.
It's very powerful.
Yeah,
It's just a cost.
It is heavy blue. That's like the biggest knock against it. But I do like the Drowner a lot.
Yeah, for me, it would be between Get Out and Vanish from Sight.
Yeah, I think I would take the first Get Out early.
I think so. Also, it goes well with the Drowner. Like anything with Flash, it's just nice to...
Honestly, I don't think it's crazy to take Terramorphic Expanse here.
I don't think that's crazy either.
I would take the Get Out, but the reasons I would not take like Vile Mutilator or Innocuous Rat is I don't want to start with a black card unless I have a good reason to that early. Like black's fine, but it's just, I just don't see a reason to take one of those cards, especially since they don't combine all that well with the Flood Pit Drowner.
Yeah. Next pack has Winter Misanthropic Guide, Miasma Demon, Smoky Lounge, Misty Salon. There's a Haunted Screen, Friendly Ghost. The only blue card here is a Creeping Peeper. There's like a Slavering Branch Snapper, Spectral Snatcher, some junk. Not a great pack.
No, but this is where I would speculate a little bit here. I would take the Smoky Lounge.
Okay.
Like, there's no card here I'm going to be that happy about. Like Branch Snapper, Inferno, Friendly Ghost, Spectral Snatcher, all completely replaceable. Every single card in this pack. The exception is, if you get there on room, Smoky Lounge is really good. I don't draft that deck that often anymore because I do think it's kind of bad. Or not bad, but it just doesn't come together that often. But I would certainly take it here because you have 2 blue cards that are fantastic in that deck. And one of the rooms decks that I've really liked is blue-white, where Smoky Lounge you can splash off a couple red sources. You can always cast Misty Salon as like a 3/3 flyer if you've got a bunch of other rooms. And overall, it works out kind of nicely.
Interesting next pack. There's Fear of Falling, Shrewd Storyteller, and Keys to the House at Uncommon. There's also Tunnel Surveyor, and there's a Peculiar Lighthouse, which could enable that splash that you were talking about. So Surveyor, Lighthouse, Fear of Falling.
So I am The lighthouse does appeal to me because I think being blue, red, white is a lot easier when you have some duels. I think I would just take Tunnel Surveyor here. Tunnel Surveyor is also really good with dissection tools just because it gives you a couple different idiots to sacrifice if you need. And I think that Fear of Falling is just straight up a mediocre card. I'm not really going to prioritize it.
Okay. Yeah. I like Tunnel Surveyor. It keeps us in blue as well. Next is, there's a Brood Spinner, a Saw, a Stocked Researcher, a Manifest Dread, and a Lakeside Shack. Wow.
This is a little interesting because I do love a Brood Spinner, but we're not very close.
We're pretty far from that. Yeah, we could do Manifest Dread.
I think I would just take Stocked Researcher. I think the card is fine in blue-white, and I think it's actually pretty good in blue-red as just a roadblock that can attack a decent percentage of the time.
This is so sad.
I would also take Lakeside Shack, the blue-green land, over Manifest Dread. If I were to make an inroad into green, it would be by just taking the land.
What if the Manifest Dread was a Spine Seeker?
Then I would take the Spine Seeker.
Yeah, you would.
But what if the Spine Seeker was a Valgavoss Onslaught? Okay,
what if the next pack had a Spine Seeker in it?
Then I would take it. And it does. It's got Spine Seeker, Centipede. There's also Break Down the Door, Twist Reality, a blue-white land. But we're not committed to anything. At this point, the Smoky Lounge doesn't really look like it's coming together, but that is totally fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll take Spine Seeker, Centipede. Green does seem open, right? That was the 6th pick. Manifest Dread, which isn't a mega sign, but pick 7, Spine Seeker, Centipede, and Break Down the Door. Like, Break Down the Door is a good card. Like, these are both very nice. So let's take the Centipede.
Break Down the Door is totally fine.
And
the Centipede is great, of course.
This is our pack one, pick 8. And unfortunately, there's really nothing for us here. There's a Fear of Failed Tests, which has failed the test of being a good Magic card. There's Live or Die, Orphans of the Wheat, Bear Trap, blah, blah, blah. Nothing really.
No, I think the card we're most likely to want here, I think I would just take the Fear of Failed Test just to kind of cut a blue card. There's like a small % chance that we'd play it.
Ooh, we wheeled one of the 2 Glimmer Bursts and also the Manifest Dread.
I would just take the Glimmer Burst. So to recap right now, we have if we take the Glimmer Burst, 6 blue cards that are good, a Spine Seeker, Centipede, a Smoky Lounge, and a Dissection Tools that we're, of course, always going to play. Mm-hmm. Glimmer Burst also good with Dissection Tools. Anything that makes 1/1s is nice with that card.
Okay, we'll take the Glimmer Burst. So we've got Flood Pits, Drowner, Get Out, Stocked Researcher, Tunnel Surveyor, Fear of Failed Test, Glimmer Burst, Dissection Tools as our kind of blue/colorless base. And then, as Luis mentioned, the Smoky Lounge and the Centipede. Pack 1, pick 10, Keys to the House, Cracked Skull, Ragged, Playmate, and Horrid Vigor.
This is the perfect time to pick up Keys to the House because this very well could be a 3-color deck. One of the reasons to take Glimmer Burst over Manifest Dread there, I think, is Glimmer Burst is a little bit better, and we're like way more like we're going to be in blue. I don't really see how that could not be the case here.
Right. Pack 1, pick 11, Unwanted Remake, Grab the Prize, and
just take Grab the Prize.
Sure.
Probably just put it right in the sideboard, but if you do end up blue-red, maybe you'd play it. I don't know. And then here, there's a Creeping Peeper. That's a fine card to take over another Grab the Prize.
So where do you see this branching off as we've got a couple of picks left, most likely? Like, do you see us being Teamer? Do you see us going for the rooms? Is that the 2 options?
Oh, look, another Keys to the House. No, actually, there's a ton of options here. You could certainly be blue-white. White's not very open, but what if you open a really good white, like if you open a Ghostly Dancers or some other strong white card, you could definitely just go that direction. This could be a 3-color deck. It could also just be straight blue-green or straight blue. It just really is going to depend on what we see this pack. Interestingly,
the best card we opened is white. There's Come Back Wrong, Orphans of the Wheat, Sheltered by Ghosts. There's an Unwilling Vessel, Pyroclasm, and Drag the Roots at uncommon. And then there's a bunch of good cards here in blue and even other colors. So there's Unsettling Twins, Twist Reality, Unable to Scream, Final Vengeance, Hand That Feeds, Monstrous Emergence, Glimmer Light. This is a pack, man. This is like average card quality is really high here.
Yeah, this pack is awesome. I would just take Sheltered by Ghosts. I know that white was cut, but it's fine. You can end up with a couple white cards. It's a totally splashable card, and you have 2 Keys to the House and a Centipede. And I just think the power level difference between the next card you'd take, which is Unable to Scream, is just too big to pass Sheltered by Ghosts. Part of the reward you get of being almost mono blue is you can just take cards of whatever color and just kind of see what's up.
What's up is pack 2, pick 2, Peer Past the Veil, Norin, Altenac, Fear of Infinity, and other keys. And then at common, there's an Unsettling Twins, a Peeper. There's a Glimmer Burst, a Murder, Turn Inside Out. Bleeding Woods, I guess.
This is a tough pack.
Yeah, this is a lot different than the other one. If we end up going white, I would want Unsettling Twins, but if we may just chicken out on all of it and just take Glimmer Burst.
I would just take another Glimmer Burst. It's kind of weak, but also like I just think Altenac is not really looking like what this deck wants anyway. I love Fear of Infinity. It's actually like one of the reasons to splash black. Like I had a deck yesterday that was great. That was like a red-black sack deck splashing 2 Fear of Infinity with a couple ways to mill or discard them and a bunch of enchantments. Mm-hmm. But I especially given we just took a white card, I would just take Glimmer Burst and just try to, again, stay heavy blue and see what good options come up. Like this pack has an Exercise, the exile target artifact, enchantment, or creature power 4 or greater, and looks like a perfect pickup because the next best card is like a Vanish from Sight or a Sawblade Skin Ripper, and we're obviously not playing the Skin Ripper.
Yeah, this is a very, very tough pack. Pack 2, pick 3, Dazzling Theater, another Winter Misanthropic Guide, Sawblade Skinner, Saw are the other uncommons besides Exercise. There's some decent commons, as you mentioned, Vanish from Sight. There's a Manifest Dread. Yeah. All right, well, we'll take an Exercise here.
Yeah, I mean, again, having 2 really good white removal spells that are splashable, a bunch of blue cards, and then this Spine Seeker Centipede and Smoky Lounge that are just kind of hanging out, seeing if either of them make the cut.
All right, next pack's up. Commune with Evil, Cathartic Parting, Living Phone is the first common there. Underwater Tunnel, Slimy Aquarium. There's a Clockwork Percussionist here, pack 2, pick 4.
Yeah, it makes me sad that we're not taking the Percussionist, but this is easy Underwater Tunnel.
Yeah.
The card's totally fine. It's a very solid support card. It does manifest, does self-mill, it's an enchantment. It also just smooths your deck out. And one of the reasons I like heavy blue decks is if you have like 2 or 3 Underwater Tunnels, which are fairly easy to pick up, and you have some cards that make them good, then you get to start a lot of games by Island Underwater Tunnel. Make sure you hit your 2-drop, or make sure you hit your 4th land, all that good stuff. So totally fine card to take. Obviously a 4th pick one is not like the dream, but I still feel that we have a lot of freedom here to take off-color cards. And this pack has an Unwilling Vessel. It has the 3/2 that gets counters and makes a flyer. It has a Shrewd Storyteller, a Cathartic Parting. We're not taking those. It has another Glimmer Burst, but those don't actually get like that much better in multiples. So I would just take Unwilling Vessel here. This is the place for it.
Yeah, for sure. We'll take it here. And we're creeping just ever slower towards the blue-white deck. Just white has been a little bit sparse at this table. But we did open the Shelter
white
by
in either
Ghost.
direction.
Yeah.
You're actually, funnily enough, I think you're kind of screwing the person who's passing to you, the person to your right, because is fairly likely cut white off, and you just took Exercise and Shelter by Ghost, 2 huge rewards for being in white. But you know what? So it goes.
Yeah, and this next pack is pack 2, pick 6. There's Violent Urge, Fear of Surveillance. There's an Erratic Apparition, a Rat, a Terramorphic. I would just take Fear of Surveillance here, though.
This one's close because Terramorphic Expanse is also pretty appealing.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think I would just take Terramorphic Expanse.
All right.
I don't think you're going to get a lot of white in pack 3. And you're not going to get a lot of white. This pack 2, pick 6, you're seeing 2 new packs and then the wheels.
But you would consider splashing the Exercise and the Sheltered?
No. I would not consider.
You're just thinking about bailing on them. Okay.
No, I would splash them. I'm not going to consider splashing them.
Oh.
We're locked in. We're going to play at the very least like 2 planes, Keys to the House, and a Terramorphic, and it'll be totally fine.
It begs the question what our actual second color is, since we don't have one yet. But
yeah, I would take the Fear of Imposters here out of this pack.
This is pack 2, pick 7. There's a Leyline of Resonance. Fear of
It's
Imposters
literally all
and a
Jund
Miasma
cards,
Demon.
except the Fear of Imposters. So
And Fear of Imposters is pretty mediocre, but it is the
we
blue
don't
card.
really need a second color. Like it's
That
not
could be true.
mandatory
Sure.
that we
true.
have one. Like we could end up Tunnel Surveyor wheel.
Yeah.
Perfect.
This is pick 8. This is pick 8, but yeah.
Oh, sorry, pick 8. As long as you're getting decent blue cards. I mean, Spine Seeker Centipede is not typically one of like 3 green cards I'll play in a deck, but like I could imagine a nearly mono blue deck that has 2 good white removal spells and maybe 2 Scorching Dragonfires if we see those in pack 3, or just nearly mono blue.
We did wheel a card though, Luis. Pack 2, pick 9. Another Unwilling Vessel came back
with a bunch of Jund cards in the pack. It feels like people are drafting white, and I can't really tell past that because blue seems pretty open, and then. At least from this direction, Jund stuff seems relatively open. Like this pack has a Drag to the Roots, a hand that feeds a Monstrous Emergence, in a red-black land. All of which I'd be happy with in a Jund deck.
Pack 2, pick 10 has Peer Past the Veil, Vicious Clown, Grasping Lockneck, and Bleeding Woods, which is the green-red one.
But this is the perfect place to pick up Fear of Infinity.
Yeah, and that is the last card in the pack, and we'll take it.
We could easily splash Fear of Infinity. We'll have a ton of enchantments and manifests. Like, that sounds great. And you've got a Terramorphic and a Keys to the House, so I like it.
Do you want to pick up a Malevolent Chandelier here?
Yeah, Malevolent Chandelier is pretty good.
Yeah, we'll take it.
I mean, you're not like super likely to play it, but I like having one. I had one deck recently that was 47 cards because I just didn't get a Chandelier, and it was like so good at milling myself. I had so much self-mill that I just needed to play more cards.
That's funny. One Chandelier would save you 7 cards. Oh, wow. We really so this pack, did it. Pack 3, pick
Entity
1.
Tracker
oh, my
rare,
God.
Unnerving Grasp, and Gremlin Taber at uncommon.
Holy smokes.
I mean, this is a really easy Entity Tracker.
Yes.
Like, I like those other cards, but you have good removal because you have like Get Out, Flood Pitch Drowner, Exercise, Sheltered by Ghosts, even Dissection Tools as like good ways to like not die to their attackers. And so you don't need the Unnerving Grasp that much. And Entity Tracker, you've got a decent amount of enchantments, and you can pick up more this pack with double Tunnel Surveyor, double Glimmer Burst. Like, that's already pretty good. The Underwater Tunnel, all that stuff. So, and then Gremlin Tamer is great, but I think Entity Tracker is going to be better here.
It is. I'm so sad to pass an Unnerving Grasp, though, Luis. Like, come on. At any rate,
Unnerving Grasp is fantastic.
So next, pack 3, pick 2, we've got Surgical Suite Hospital Room, which that definitely will be on our list. Another Unwilling Vessel, which we'll probably just wheel. And there's a Seized from Slumber. I would go for a Surgical Suite.
Given that you just took Entity Tracker, Surgical Suite's a fantastic follow-up because they work really well together no matter which order you play them. Like, as a way to get back the Tracker is fantastic. You go turn 3 Tracker, and you play an enchantment, draw a card. On their turn, they kill it, hopefully not with Scorching Dragonfire. Then you go Surgical Suite, get it back. And just casting Suite with or Hospital Room with Tracker and play obviously draws you a card. And you have a decent chance, if you don't wheel the Unwilling Vessel, that maybe Seized from Slumber would come back. This looks like a nice Seized from Slumber deck. Plus, there's a Terramorphic and a Murky Sewer, so you'd be interested in both those. What is going on? You got a 3rd pick Swarm Weaver.
Whoa. Is there any way to make that happen?
This one's pretty far away from where we're at.
Yeah, well, what else are we picking over it, I guess?
That's the tough part is there's Savior no playables. There's a Savior of the Small, a Living Phone, and a Don't Make a Sound. The rest are just like red or green cards.
I guess I'll just take the Swarm Weaver, but yeah, it does feel like there's not a realistic way to get that in. Yeah,
you can probably hide the Smoky Lounge at this point. Yeah. I don't think you're very likely to play that. I would honestly take the Swarm Weaver.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like super likely you want to play it, but it is possible if we got a bunch of duels for free or something. We do have a couple Keys to the House. I don't know. We're not really missing out on much.
No, pack 3, pick 4 has Fear of Infinity, which would be our second one if we take it. There's an Unsettling Twins, another Keys to the House.
You know, I think I would take Overgrown Zealot out of this pack, the 2-mana 0/4.
And go back in for the Centipede.
If you take
on this
Zealot,
splash?
You can play Zealot, Centipede, and Swarm Weaver and Fear of Infinity. You can just play 4 colors here. You're 4 colors, but you're really like heavy blue, 4 or 5 green cards, and then 2 black cards, 2 white cards or something. Like, this pack has a Moldering Gym, and Moldering Gym is actually it's great with like the enchantment stuff, like Entity Tracker, for example. You can cast it with Creeping Peeper on the 6 part, which kind of comes up. And this is another fixer. Yeah, what a weird draft, but I think this is a kind of interesting one. There's no good blue or white card out of this pack anyway. So
yeah, and that's what we faced last time. So we're taking Moldering Gym pack 3, pick 5, and upping our green card count. We just went from I had pulled out the Centipede, so we had 0. Then we took Swarm Weaver. I put it back in. We took Zealot, and now Moldering Gym. So we're up to 4 or 5 cards just like that.
Well, we're back to blue now because this pack has a Moldering Gym, but it also has a Meat Locker and an Underwater Tunnel. And we don't have a Meat Locker yet. I love having this card.
Yeah.
It prevents floods so nicely by letting you draw 3, discard 1. So good time to pick that up.
Definitely. And yeah, Meat Lockers.
Also, I mean, if you draw enough cards, that also helps your mana issues. Like
it's true.
One of the reasons I like having a Swarm Weaver in this kind of deck is between like drawing cards and surveilling, you're just going to end up seeing a lot of the cards in your deck, and this having a huge, really high impact card, even if it's like a double splash, that's pretty important. Like this pack now has an Underwater Tunnel, a Final Vengeance, a blue-white land, and a Glimmerlight. But I would just take Underwater Tunnel. I think that.
You would? Okay.
You have Entity Tracker. I mean, how many playables are we at? We're at a pretty good amount.
Yeah, we're above playables.
No, just take the blue white land. Take the blue white land.
Yeah, I wanted to, but I think I missed it. That's okay.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
I think at the last minute, I just was having a hard time looking at how many playables because you have things like fear of failed tests in there. It's a trap.
Yeah.
But now you got a green white land. A green white land is totally playable.
Do we want the Scrabbling Skull Crab pack 3 pick 8?
No, this deck doesn't need it. Like you've got enough ways to finish the game.
Okay,
I think
we'll take the green white land.
Look, now there's a green black land. Like you would play that too.
Well, I'm gonna take it. That's really funny. And then there's a black land blue perfect. Pack 3 pick 10.
Well, so as funny as this draft ended up being, I do think it's an example of you stayed heavy blue the entire time, and then you just kind of opportunistically picked up whatever good cards are in the pack. It's actually now there's a Slavering Branch Snapper and a Green Land Cycler. I don't mind that actually. It's not great for the people around you, but
we were definitely that guy, right?
The person to your right who passed you the 3rd pick Swarm Weaver was definitely going to put Sheltered by Ghosts and Exercise in their deck if you passed them.
Definitely.
But you didn't. You had them. And now you can do something like play like a Plains. Like you can start with like a Plains and a Swamp at 1 of each and then see if you need slightly more. But I actually think this deck is quite good. You have Dissection Tools and Swarm Weaver as an Entity Tracker as like really powerful cards. You've got a pretty good amount of interaction and fixing, and you've got also a lot of ways to see cards with double Underwater Tunnel, double Glimmer Burst, the Entity Tracker to draw you extra cards, Meat Locker. All that seems nice. I would play 1 Keys to the House. I don't think you need to play 2. Because I like cutting a land for Keys to the House. Like this deck's going to want to play probably 16 land plus a Branch Snapper plus a Keys to the House. Mm-hmm. But if you do that too many times, a hand of double Keys to the House, 5 spells is not a functional hand. So
right.
You can't go too deep on it.
So we're at 43 cards right here.
So one thing I want to look at, how much self-mill / manifest do you have? You have 2 Underwater Tunnels.
Yeah.
And is that it? I think that, I guess you have Moldering Gym, but that's pretty expensive.
Right.
Okay. So the reason I ask that is in decks with lots of self-mill, you often want to have two of your splash lands where you'd normally play 1, because if you mill your 1 swamp, you're in a lot of trouble.
Right.
I don't think this deck actually has that issue. So I think you could probably start with 1 swamp, 1 plains. 1 plains, for example, gives you 1 plus the green-white land plus the Terramorphic plus the Spine Seeker, plus the Keys to the House, plus the Moldering Gem, plus the Overgrown Zealot. So it's 7 white sources, but I kind of round it down to 5.5, 6 white sources, because sometimes you crack Terramorphic or Keys for something else, or they mess with your Overgrown Zealot. But that's not a crazy place to start. And then with 1 swamp, you have kind of the same. You have an extra land. So you have a swamp plus 2 duels plus Terramorphic plus the other fixing.
So we would kill an island. Mm-hmm.
And then you look there and you're like, okay, well, do I have enough of my other sources? If you do, then you maybe go back and add another swamp in or something like that. But
okay,
I suspect you're actually fine to start with. And you did indeed pull out Creeping Peeper and Fear of Imposters. Those are 2 cards I would be totally happy cutting.
Yeah. So if this is the build, this is a Keys to the House, double Underwater Tunnel Slimy Aquarium, an Exercise, a Sheltered by Ghost, a Flood Pits Drowner, a Stocked Researcher, a Get Out, which I guess we can still do, an Overgrown Zealot, and a Surgical Suite. 3s are Entity Tracker, 2 Tunnel Surveyors, 2 Unwilling Vessel, a Spineseeker Centipede, a Fear of Infinity, which do we still want? Meat Locker, a Moldering Gem. Okay. And then Double Glimmer Burst, the Swarm Weaver, Dissection Tools, and a Slavering Branch Stamper. Now, lands were at 16 right now with just the 1 plains, which, yeah, I guess that's fine. It is a little, we do have a Terramorphic and a Spineseeker, so if it were to go away, it'd be annoying, but we just don't have that many ways to do that. 6 islands, a swamp, 4 forest, a murky sewer, which is the blue-black, strangled cemetery, which is the black-green, etched cornfield, which is the green-white, and then a Terramorphic, and that's 16 lands. Any changes that you'd make to this?
I don't think so. This deck actually looks good. I would be happy with this deck. It's a little weird. I don't usually draft, 4-color blue or whatever, but I think that I think this deck is going to play out pretty nicely.
Okay, that's a sweet one, by the way. Just like a cool deck.
How differently do you think you would have ended up if I weren't there? What is there any big directional picks that you think would have been differently?
Yeah, I wouldn't have been brave enough to go for the green.
Gotcha.
I think I just I pulled the Spineseeker.
You wouldn't have taken the Overgrown Zealot, then the Moldering Gem. You would have ended up with probably a Swarm Weaver in your sideboard.
Exactly. I would have taken the Swarm Weaver because there was just nothing else there.
Nothing. It wasn't like a.
But if there was another, 1 in a blue 3/3, I would have probably just taken that, and just been like, I'm heavy blue looking to splash not these colors, and I probably just would have bailed. But I think it'll actually work. If I can just not die. Oh, sweet. We get right into the traditional draft here too. So no waiting. And our first 3 cards are black. Come Back Wrong, Unstoppable Slasher. That's a good one. Sporogenic Infection. And then other uncommons are Under the Skin, Rite of the Moth, and Baseball Bat. And then out of the commons, there is a Monstrous Emergence, Final Vengeance, not much.
It's funny, but when you see an Under the Skin, you don't need to look at the commons anymore, I don't think.
True. Yeah, good point.
That's better than all the commons.
I would still take Under the Skin and Slasher. Yeah.
Over the Under the Skin. They're both very good. I wouldn't really fault you if you took Under the Skin, but the Slasher is really, truly excellent. It
is an awesome Magic card. It's one of those cards that when they play it and you haven't played against it and then you kill it and it comes back and you're like, what? I just killed that. And it just keeps doing its thing. It's really good on defense. It's really hard to get rid of. So yeah, we'll take the Unstoppable Slasher. It is close because I would so much rather just be in green.
Yes, taking a green card first pick is better than taking a black card for sure, but I would take the Slasher still.
Next pack is pack 1, pick 2, Unwanted Remake, Get Out, Defiled Crypt, Cadaver Lab, House Cartographer are uncommons. There's a Glassworks down there at the common. That's the only card that really jumps out. There's a couple other playables, Unsettling Twins, Flesh Burrower.
Honestly,
Glassworks here?
I would just take the Glassworks. Yeah. I think that you do want to, when you take a black card, the best place to end up is red black. I do think, especially one with Unstoppable Slasher is even nice. You can sacrifice it. And Glassworks is, I think, the best card here. Defiled Crypt is kind of nice. It does actually combo with Unstoppable Slasher, funnily enough. But I don't think that you need to take a weaker card by that much just to stay on color.
Okay. Yeah. And, going back to what you were talking about in our first week show, about how the cards vary quite a bit based on archetype. That's always the case, but this set, it really seems to be exaggerated. And Glassworks is one of those cards. It's really good in this deck and in blue-red. And it's fine in the other red decks. You can play it, but it's not jump out of your chair. Oh, interesting pack. Next, we've got a Scrabbling Skullcrab, an Overgrown Zealot, a Patchwork Beastie, an Arabella Abandoned Doll at our uncommon. Those are some bangers up there. There's a Monstrous Emergence, a Vanish from Sight, and a Terramorphic down at common.
I'm just on Patchwork Beastie here.
Okay.
I think Arabella is very good, but I think Arabella is basically saying you don't want to play Unstoppable Slasher, and I prefer to play that card. Mm-hmm. And then the Patchwork Beastie, I think, is the best card in the pack outside of Arabella. I don't think you can justify staying straight red or black here because Winter's Intervention, Impossible Inferno, and Terramorphic are all just too weak to take here. I like Patchwork Beastie quite a bit more than the Overgrown Zealot as well.
Okay. Oh yeah, I'm definitely down for a Patchwork Beastie here. So that gives us Patchwork Beastie, Unstoppable Slasher, and Glassworks as our first 3 picks.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that we are junned because our first 3 picks had a card of each color, but these cards all work together fairly well.
Yeah, this is a good pack too. So there's a Ley Line, but there's a Duskmourn's Domination. There's a Trial of Agony, which I've really liked in aggro decks and a bit less outside, but there's a Break Down the Door at Uncommon here as well.
Yeah, I would just take Break Down the Door.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty solid card. I don't think that there's a really alternative here, unless the only other comparable cards, you could take Trial of Agony, it's okay. You could take a blue-green land, but there's no real reason to do that. Break Down the Door is totally fine.
Yeah. I kind of like if this leads us into green, like if we're green-red splash this slasher, that's totally fine.
Yeah, my order of preference here would be to go into green-black Delirium and TBD on splashing or not, because Glassworks is a card I'm fine just not playing.
Yeah.
But red-green splashing slasher is fine. The way this format works, like it's pretty easy to splash. So if you're green-black, you're often going to want to splash a color, even if you don't have something necessarily. Well, here we go. This gives us a direction here, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we got Miasma Demon and Fear of Burning Alive. There's also Moldering Gym. But yeah, this Fear of Burning Alive is sweet, right?
Oh yeah, Fear of Burning Alive is a fantastic card. Kai actually reached out to me after listening to the show with Chion. You did want to point something out we didn't mention. Mm-hmm. If they kill Fear of Burning Alive in response to the damage trigger, you won't get the deal 4 to a creature. So that is something to keep in mind. That does come up. I just forgot to mention it.
So that trigger goes on the stack. You kill the thing, that trigger resolves, and there's nothing to do the second trigger.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good. Good looking out, Kai. Okay. Well, you were saying that you wanted to be perhaps of the Delirium angle, and that might be where we're going here. Wow, look at this one. There's a Blazemire Verge, which is the red-black dual land that cares about if you control swamps or mountains. There's a Fear of Infinity, Glimmerlight, and Clockwork Percussionist. Do we just Percussionist here?
Yeah, I would just Percussionist. I like the red-black land. I would be pretty happy taking a red-black land in the spot, but Percussionist is so good. You also really don't need to splash the slasher if you end up in an aggro Delirium deck. Obviously, splashing it is nice.
Don't take away my slasher. I mean, we're going to be green. Like there has to be a way for us to get this card in here. All right. Pack 1, pick 7, Fear of Failed Tests. We talked about that. There's a Cackling Slasher in our colors as well as a Rampaging Soul Rager.
I would just take the Friendly Teddy.
That's a second.
Sometimes if you don't have artifacts, that'll be the artifact that you need.
Okay. Yeah, we got the Percussionist. That does a very good job of getting itself to the graveyard. Friendly Teddy would be a nice fill-in in that case. So right now we have Percussionist, Patchwork Beastie, the Unstoppable Slasher, Break Down the Door, Fear of Burning Alive, and a Glassworks to go with our favorite teddy bear here. This is Pack 1, pick 8, by the way. Ooh, there's some stuff here. There's a Strangled Cemetery. That is the green-black dual land. There's also a Glimmerlight. I like the dual here, though.
Yeah, easy dual. I mean, you've got... The Vengeful Possession is kind of interesting if you ended up like more red-black-ish, but I don't think that's the direction we're going. So taking the dual seems like it's a pretty nice one.
That gives us a very good chance of playing the slasher. And this is this next pack is our wheel pack, so we'll see what we got back. The baseball bat came back. So did Spectral Snatcher, Boiler Bilge's Ripper, and a Cackling
Spectral
Slasher.
Snatcher's fine. The double cost in the land cyclers does mean that you don't typically splash them in your like red-green deck or whatever, but it is a totally fine card to pick up. I don't think I almost never play the Boiler Bilge's Ripper, and I certainly don't often play it in a red-green deck. So I think that the Spectral Snatcher seems like a good one.
Pack 1, pick 10. There's a Get Out, a Dagger Maw Megalodon, a Give Into Violence, and your favorite, the Ripchain Razorkin.
I would take Ripchain Razorkin to just not pass a red card.
Sure.
There's nothing in this pack that I think we're very likely to want.
I'm going to put it in the sideboard for you, though. Okay, well, we wield a Scrabbling Skullcrab and a Vanish from Sight. There's also Horrid Vigor.
I've sided in Horrid Vigor, and this is Premier Draft, so traditional draft rather.
Yeah.
So I would take it. I sided in the Arena Open. I sided it in against Ethereal Armor.
Oh, really?
That's a really good answer to it because your creature doesn't die, and then it just kills their thing no matter how big it is.
All right. Well, we picked up a second copy of that as well as a second copy of Friendly Teddy as the pack winds down here. So just to recap, we've got Clockwork Percussionist, Patchwork Beastie, a Horrid Vigor, a Friendly Teddy. We have extras of both of those. The Slasher, Break Down the Door, technically a Spectral Snatcher right now, Fear of Burning Alive, Glassworks, and a Strangled Cemetery. And pack 2, pick 1, we opened Chainsaw, as well as House Cartographer, Commune with Evil, Bottomless Pool.
I love a Chainsaw. Chainsaw is fantastic. It's
dope.
2 mana to kill something, and then you end up growing the Chainsaw throughout the course of the game until it gets 3 or 4 counters on it, and then you get to start putting it on your like 1/1s, and they have to block, and now it's got 6 counters, and so on and so forth. So
it really does work. Yeah, and it's also like not a good target to bounce because they just get to kill something again.
And like if they have to use a spell on it, then you 2-for-1 them. So
totally.
And it's an artifact if you mill it. Though I really have found the red green decks don't fault for artifacts between Percussionist, Patchwork Beastie. Like you get a bunch of artifact creatures kind of free anyway. Ooh, don't have to fear of missing out this one. The Fear of Missing Out is a great card in this deck for so many reasons. It's an enchantment. It's a discard outlet. It rewards you specifically for having Delirium. And there's a hand that feeds in this pack that could come back, though this pack's actually really weak, so it probably won't.
Yeah, there's an Enduring Curiosity. My cursed card, the Patched Plaything, a Pyroclasm, Attack in the Box.
Yeah, you're passing somebody during Curiosity, hooking them up, but Fear of Missing Out is great.
Yeah, whoever's in blue is going to be very happy here. I mean, those last 2 cards out of that other pack were both playable blue cards, but we got FOMO. Are we going to play the Spectral Snatcher? Probably not, right?
I don't think so.
I'm going to take it out. So we'll add Fear of Missing Out to our Percussionist, Beastie, Chainsaw, Horrid Vigor, Friendly Teddy, Unstoppable Slasher, Break Down the Door, Fear of Burning Alive, Glassworks, and the Cemetery. Good pickup for us there. Pack 2, pick 3. Ooh, there's a Brood Spinner and a Wildfire Wicker Folk up on that top row. There's a Winter's Interventions floating around here as well. So do we want to stick to the game plan of Wildfire Wicker Folk with our primarily green red deck, or do we want to further splash for a Brood Spinner?
Yeah, this is tough. It's both those options are pretty good.
Guess we would probably just go with the Wicker Folk.
I think I would just take the Wicker Folk.
Yeah.
Like
our mana supports that.
You have all the hallmarks of a pretty nice aggressive deck. Like you've got Percussionist, Patchwork Beastie, Chainsaw, Fear of Missing Out.
Yeah.
Like these Glassworks is even better in aggressive decks. I would just take the Wicker Folk.
Yeah, we'll just keep it simple here. Hopefully we'll wheel something. There is the Brood Spinner that can be difficult to get into a deck, and there's a hand that feeds in this pack as well. Hopefully nobody's scooping up all of those. Pack 2, pick 4, the Mind Skinner. That's the triple blue. There's a Smoky Lounge. There's a Terramorphic, a Flesh Burrower. There's a Turn Inside Out here as well. I think I would take Flesh Burrower
Terramorphic Expanse.
Okay, because that does actually unlock the Slasher. I was going to decide between Turn Inside Out and Flesh Burrower. What's the Expanse argument?
Well, it's just good in red-green because of Delirium, and then sometimes you if you do splash black, then you end up being pretty happy about having it as well.
If I have this and Strangled Cemetery, can you do I have the blessing to put the Unstoppable Slasher in the deck?
Oh yeah, you're almost assuredly going to.
All right, then I'll take Terramorphic Expanse. Next is, there's an Undead Sprinter, speaking of splashing. Oh, but there's a Scorching Dragonfire down here, Luis.
Yeah, you got to just take the Dragonfire.
Yeah, especially because the Sprinter's a good card, but much less good on the splash.
Yeah, totally. And you don't have any sack stuff, so I think it's a pretty reasonable way to, it's not going to do that much. And whereas Scorching Dragonfire is just a reasonable way to make your deck, A, more instants, B, more removal. You want both these. Instant is actually harder than sorcery in red-green, I've found. Because and you already do have Break Down the Door. You're not going to play this Horrid Vigor, I hope. And of course, Scorching Dragonfire is a great one. Turn Inside Out is good too. That is a card I'm happy to put in my deck.
But we're going to take
when I'm red green aggressive. Oh wow, this pack has another Fear of Burning Alive, which you're definitely going to take over Infernal Phantom and Slavering Branch Snapper.
What are your thoughts on the Infernal Phantom?
Really not a good card. You should strive to.
I've also found it to be mediocre.
I don't put it in my deck, and whenever my opponents play it, I beat them easily. So it has got a little bit of that like selection effect where bad cards have a lower win rate as the format even goes on, because the people who play them are people who also don't know as much about the format typically. Mm-hmm. So it's like kind of a compounding effect of like, this card is bad, and then the only people who play it are people who don't know it's bad, so it gets even worse.
Okay, so we took the second Fear of Burning Alive. Pack 2, pick 7. There's a Norrin, Swift Survivalist, a Keys to the House, and a Moldering Gem in our colors.
I don't mind Norrin. It's a 1-mana 2/1 that, like it can't block, but if you attack them with a Fear of Burning Alive, when you have Norrin play, they cannot block you.
It is so gnarly, yeah.
And Moldering Gem is also a card I almost never play in red green, or at least try not to.
Yeah, for sure. Keys to the House. We are looking to splash. We are looking for Delirium. So
I do like Keys to the House, but this deck is going to have plenty of artifacts. You already have Beastie, Chainsaw, Wildfire Wickerfolk. You're probably not going to play the Friendly Teddy. You have Clockwork Percussionist, and we're hoping to get another one of those or two. And you also don't want to spend your first 2 turns cracking the Keys to the House, whereas like in green, black, or whatever, it's just not as much of a cost.
Right. I'm going to take a Horrid Vigor, pack 2, pick 8 over nothing. No other cards that we would even consider there. This is our wheel. Oh, we did get back the Clockwork Percussionist.
Wheeling the Percussionist is just so nice. Like, that card is just fantastic.
That's awesome. It's so good in this deck, too, because we're like aggressive and Delirium.
Come on. The best deck for Percussionist is probably a red-green aggressive deck. Obviously, it's fantastic in red-white as well, but like aggro, Delirium. Oh, hand that feeds wheeled too.
Are we going to get the other hand that feeds, not next pick, but the pick after?
I doubt that, but I didn't think this one was going to wheel. So, I mean, going into pack 3, like I still would splash the Slasher because you have a green-black land and it expands, but this is looking like a really nice low-curve Delirium deck with like double Percussionist, Norrin, Patrick Beastie, 4 1-drops. Getting on the board on turn 1 is fantastic. Yeah. And then you have Fear of Missing Out, Hand that Feeds, Wickerfolk on 2, and then double Fear of Burning Alive to like really close the door if it gets late.
We did not wheel the other Hand that Feeds. The pack 2, pick 12 Hand that Feeds didn't make it.
Well, that's a shame, isn't it?
Bedhead Beastie, do you play this card?
Oh, I almost never play it, and I even less now. You have double Percussionist in your deck. You really don't want to flip that card on turn 3 when you do that.
There you go. Okay, pack 3, pick 1. Yikes. Okay, whew. I saw it a little late, but there's a Patchwork Beastie, just to kind of put that out there. Restricted Office, which is like the kind of sweeper. Unwilling Vessel, Commune with Evil, Vengeful Possession, and Attack in the Box are the other uncommons surrounding our beautiful little boy, the Patchwork Beastie. There is also a Trapped in the Screen in this pack. There is a Razor Trap Gorge that we'd love to wheel, a Vicious Clown that we wouldn't play. Anyway, we got a Patchwork Beastie.
Yeah, I mean, another Patchwork Beastie. They also stack really well. Opening hand of Forest, double Beastie, you're just going to be attacking with both of them really, really quickly.
Dude, this deck's looking pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
2 Clockwork Percussionists, 2 Patchwork Beasties, a Norrin.
Yeah, this deck is sick.
Okay, next there's a Marvin Murderous Mimic. There's a Killer's Mask. There's another Glassworks.
Yeah, a second Glassworks is pretty good. Sure. It gives you a decent chance of milling an enchantment in general. Yeah, now you have a really nice spread, except no sorceries.
Really? Oh, weird.
You have 3 instant 0 sorceries, then 4 enchantments, 6 artifact. Like you're doing fine on everything except the sorcery count, which is kind of odd. I guess you just haven't seen any like Say Its Names or what other sorceries? Like, kind of whatever. Like grab the prize, any of that stuff.
Yeah, any of the fight spells. All right, well, we'll take Glassworks here. That's our second one of those. Pack 3, pick 3. Oh, there's a Fear of Isolation. I love that. Oh, there's another Scorching Dragonfire, though.
Even though I want a sorcery pretty badly, I can't justify taking Manifest Dread over Scorching Dragonfire. Yeah. Manifest Dread's very good in this kind of deck, but just take the Scorching Dragonfire.
Yeah.
Like, it's shocking how many good rares and uncommons are answered cleanly by it. Like
really
the
is.
Undead Sprinter or any of the enduring things, any of those cards, you just Dragonfire and we're good.
Yeah, the second Dragonfire brings a wave of relief. Like you just cover so many bases by having 2 of those. It's likely you'll see one most games, and yeah, the card just does absolute work. One of the best removal spells we've had in a while. The Exile's so clutch in this set too. Oh, that's interesting. So next one comes out. We do have a rare that's on colors. It's Peer Past the Veil. There's also Greenhouse Rickety Gazebo. There's a Impossible Inferno and a Cryptid Inspector. There's a Bear Trap. Is this a Peer Past the Veil deck, I guess is my question.
Yeah, I think I would take it just because you're not giving up anything. An Impossible Inferno is fine, but with double Fear of Burning Alive, you don't even really need that. You already have expensive removal. And Peer Past the Veil is okay. Your curve is low. I like that. Like this deck could cast a turn 4 Peer Past the Veil sometimes.
Mm-hmm. But annoyingly, it's an instant.
Yes, it would have been a lot better if it was not.
Yeah, this next pack has Grievous Wound, which I still haven't seen anybody actually cast it. The rare slot, there's Unwanted Remake.
I died to Grievous Wound once.
Really?
They played Glassworks as the shattered yard, and then Grievous Wound, and it pings you for one, use half-life, then pings you for one. Yeah, you just die really quickly.
That's really cool, actually.
I would not still recommend putting it in your deck generally, but yeah,
that was pretty
good.
We're taking Wary Watchdog out of this pack. It's the only playable, and it's a pretty good one for us. Okay, here's some stuff. Oh, this is interesting, Luis. So perfect. Go for it.
Well, there's a Breakdown the Door, but there's also a Say Its Name. A sorcery that mills you is like exactly what you need. You do need that pretty badly, I would say.
So you take it over Breakdown the Door, and Grasping Longneck is what you're really saying here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Glimmerlight. Glimmerlight's also like a pretty reasonable card.
Definitely. It's just a flashlight, by the way. Next up. Oh, there's a Diversion Specialist. There's also a Bashful Beastie, a Slavering Branch Snapper, and a Grasping Longneck. Is this a Diversion Specialist deck? I mean, it's a 4/3 menace at baseline. Not too bad. We have 12 creatures right now.
Yeah, I think I would probably take it just because I think it's a little better than Bashful Beastie.
This is interesting. Pack 3, pick 8, there's Violent Urge in our colors, and then there's also Bleeding Woods, the 13 or less life dual land.
Oh, it's an easy Bleeding Woods. You've got plenty of playables, I would say, and you might wheel something. I've also been kind of unimpressed with Violent Urge. It's got its moments, but
it is just worse than the common, right?
Yes, I think Turn Inside Out is generally better.
Pack 3, pick 9, we did wheel Razor Trap Gorge. There's also Grasping Longneck. Any thoughts? There's also an Attack in the Box.
You have enough enchantments that I don't think you're in too dire need.
We're close-ish on playables right now, though. We have 4 lands and 26 playables.
Like I really only play the Longneck if I'm desperate for an extra enchantment, and this deck really isn't.
All right, Cautious Survivor is our next pick. Pack 3, pick 11 is a Rampaging Soul Rager, which I'm going to put in the sideboard. And then we get a Bear Trap that I think we're still fine on with the 2 Percussionists that we're not going to have a hard time. Wow, last pick Glimmerburst? What's up with that?
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
Just open. Okay, so I am curious about our playables count here, though, because I think we're close. I mean, we have other stuff on the board that we can toss in here, but yeah, right now it's at exactly 40. That's with all of our lands and everything you see here. But that includes like a Cautious Survivor in here, which is pretty mediocre.
All right. So if you cut the Cautious Survivor, you'd be 1 under.
We'd be 1 under. We could replace it with your favorite, the Ripchain Razorkin, or a Bedhead Beastie, or a Bear Trap, or one of the friendly teddies.
What's our instant/artifact count? We're like 6 instants or 7 instants?
We are 5 instants, 6 artifacts, one sorcery.
We're pretty good at either of those things. I think I would probably put in the Teddy, because like one of the things that's going to happen is you're going to play a turn 1 Patchwork Beastie and really hope to get to 4, and milling Friendly Teddy or playing it early is good. Plus this keeps your curve low. Like this deck looks awesome.
This deck is sweet. So here's what we ended up with. We've got 2 Clockwork Percussionists, a Norrin Swift Survivalist, 2 Patchwork Beastie, a chainsaw. I mean, this is like, wow, right? Like we're just getting into the twos and it's already awesome. A fear of missing out. One, the hand that feeds that wield. 2 scorching dragonfire. Oh no, I still have a Horrid Vigor in here. Let's talk about that in a second. To say its name, our lone sorcery, a wary watchdog, a wildfire wickerfolk, and a friendly teddy. At the 3s.
Currently, you by the way, you have 15 cards that cost 2 or less.
Oh, jeez.
Really nice Pure Pass the Veil deck, to be honest.
Yeah, actually. Oh, yeah. Unstoppable Slasher. That's the 1 black card that we're playing. Break Down the Door and 2 Glassworks. At the 4s, we currently have Diversion Specialist because whatever. Appear Past the Veil. And then we don't have any 5s, but our 6s are 2 Fear of Burning Alive. And then our mana count right now is 6 mountains, 6 forest, a swamp, a razor trap gorge, which again is the 13 or less life black red, a strangled cemetery, same type of land, but black green, a bleeding woods, same land, but red green, and then a terramorphic. And then I forgot about the Horrid Vigor, though. Do we want to swap that out for a creature or something a little more punchy?
I actually don't mind the Horrid Vigor here.
Okay.
Like, you've got a couple combos with it.
Because people block the percussionist all the time.
No, that is one of them. Like sometimes you just like attack with a turn 5 percussionist and they block with their 7/6 or something.
They do, because they're like, sure, you want your card back, go ahead. Yeah.
It also works nicely with Fear of Missing Out, because if you untap something, first of all, they're going to want to block the Fear of Missing Out. Second, making it indestructible, then attacking again with it is pretty nice.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll stick with that.
Yeah, it also, on 8 mana, you could cast Fear of Burning Alive and in response, give it Death Touch if you really wanted to get somewhere. Mm-hmm. Also, you have that is a combo, though. You have 2 Shattered Yards from the other side of Glassworks and 2 Fear of Burning Alives. If you have those both in play, you could give it Death Touch, end of turn, pink for 1. All that stuff like works out kind of nicely. You even have Trample in the Wickerfolk. Giving it Death Touch on a Trampler out of nowhere can be pretty nice.
Okay. Yeah, so that'll be totally good. And that was also how we got to 5 instants, because when we checked, I had that card in. So I'll name this part too, just because it is Delirium decks. You do want to keep an eye on it. And for those of you that maybe are getting used to Arena still or whatever, there's the little stat box thing next to your deck box. You can just click on that.
I use that a lot in this format, because I really want to be able to see how many instant sorceries, artifacts, and enchantments I have. Mm-hmm. Usually don't care about creature or land count, because like those naturally kind of work themselves out.
Right. And so like in this case, we've got 14 creatures, 5 instants, just the 1 sorcery. Normally that would be 3 or something. 7 artifacts, which is high. And I think it's because of the clock, or because of the 2, what's it called? Patchwork Beasties kind of pumping that up. But at any rate, we have 7 artifacts. This one has 5 enchantments, which is just right. And then 17 lands in for this deck as well. Sweet.
I like this deck more. I do think both decks are pretty good. I don't know. This format's really fun. I'm usually happy with the decks I draft. I feel like there's a lot of ways to go, and it feels like there's not that many drafts that are that on rails. Obviously, sometimes you first pick Gremlin Tamer, second pick Flood Pit's Drowner, third pick Grand Entryway, never take another non-blue-white card, and you're just locked in. But like the first deck was a great example of that. Where mono blue ended up being blue-green splash black-white, but I think that deck is coherent and works. This deck, you were always pretty much on Jund Delirium, but like it was cool seeing like, our curve is getting lower and lower. We're really trying to push on the like aggressive version of the deck, but there's always feels like there's like lots of just minor ways you could go. At one point in this draft, you did see like decent like blue cards that you could have potentially splashed, or white cards you could have potentially splashed. Like I haven't really splashed Arabella. I don't think that works that well, but that was one of the powerful cards I did notice.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, I will be piloting these hopefully to amazing finishes in the not too distant future. That is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and drafting with us in this case. Again, if you're listening on audio only and you'd like to get the visuals, we do put these up on the YouTube channel with we'll put every episode of the show actually up on the YouTube channel, but with the visuals as well, so that you can see the decks and see the picks and maybe some of the cards that we can't name, because we can't name every single card in every pack. But at any rate, if you want to follow along there, that's where you can find that. If you want to find us on social media, I'm Marshall_LR, and Luis is LSV pretty much everywhere. You can find everything related to the show, including a link to the YouTube channel on the front page of lrcast.com. You can also find Luis's YouTube channel there, where you can follow along with his Arena Open run that he mentioned and see what he was talking about with those games. Again, that's all on the front page of lrcast.com. I want to say thank you to each and every person who supports us on Patreon, and Ultimate Guard for supporting the show as well. That's going to do it for this one. We'll see you next week.
Well, I had a couple things I wanted to mention. One is that I have just been taking a beating in Cube recently. I've actually been doing pretty well in Duskmourn. Like I feel like I'm still 97 mythic or whatever, and won a couple bucks at the Arena Open, and it was all good. I've been really feeling in line with the format, but I've been getting walloped in Cube. I checked my win percentage on the draft server because we have a bot that keeps track, and over my last 50 matches, I have a 42% win percentage. That is not great. That is
wow,
quite a bit lower than I would
for
hope
you.
for.
That's like 20% off.
Well, my overall win percentage now in that server has dropped to 55% thanks to that sample size. So
you haven't just been complaining for no reason. Interesting.
I have not just been complaining for no reason, though. So what's interesting to me about that is, one, everyone goes through losing streaks, and maybe that some of the listeners can get some value out of hearing the fact that I think I'm pretty good and I still could get pummeled plenty. And how you deal with that is obviously, there's a lot of different ways. But two, I do think I've been playing kind of looser than I would like. And it's hard to like nail that down. Part of it might be that I've been focusing more on Duskmourn, but this was, I was already losing pretty bad during the Cube World stuff. And that was even before Duskmourn came out. Part of it is I'm sure that I could be drafting a little differently, though. Again, I watched BK do a ton of drafts. He watched me do a ton of drafts. We're both pretty aligned on what cards we like and when we like to take them and what our picks are. And he's been doing great. Like, he did really well in the Cube Worlds thing, and just overall, I think he has a very high win percentage there. So I'm not sure. I think it's like a combination of like I could focus a little more, probably some bad luck, and I also think overall people are catching up in Cube. Like I think it would have been reasonable at the start. Like my win percentage at the start of like when we were really doing a lot of drafts on the draft server, and Cube wasn't on Magic Online quite as much, and people weren't as into it. Cube's gotten so popular, and people have been playing it so much that like I don't think expecting a 65% win percentage is realistic at all. Even if that's like my lifetime win percentage in a lot of situations, I think like closer to 60, somewhere in that range is reasonable. But 42 is obviously a bit lower than I would hope for. So I'm going to try to synthesize all these. Maybe the time that I spend playing less Magic over these next couple months will give me a good refresh when I come back. But we'll see. I have not loved that. But on the subject of Cube, I did want to mention that I will be co-streaming the Cube Worlds, like the actual live Cube draft that you'll be commentating. So you have an option of listening to Marshall commentate it, or you can tune into my stream and listen to me commentate it. So
you can listen to me and Reed Duke or Luis.
Yeah, that's it. I would not begrudge anyone for choosing either of those, though I would not do both at once. That would probably end up being a little bit confusing.
I want to listen to your commentary.
You go back and do it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So it would have been nice to be there, but I wasn't going to be able to be there for a variety of reasons anyway. So up to and including the fact that I didn't qualify. So you know what? I hope everyone enjoys, and we'll see that. That's a week from Saturday, I think.
Friday, right?
Friday, a week from Friday.
Yeah.
So hopefully see everyone there.